Tom Denbeck, moderator. I have an opening statement. This is a remote special meeting of the representative town meeting. There'll be a roll call attendance after the Pledge of Allegiance. This agenda, along with instructions to submit public comment to this meeting, is available at www.waterfordct.org. A recording of this meeting will be posted to the same address along with the minutes. The meeting is open to the public via YouTube Live. Members of the representative town meeting or administration are asked to listen in the mute mode to avoid background noise and echoing. If a representative town meeting member has a question, please raise your hand and you will be acknowledged. Representative town meeting members need to identify yourselves when speaking. The conference platform has a chat feature. However, the chat feature will not be used for this meeting. Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask everybody to rise and salute to the flag, please.
You can find a flag on my square if you're looking for one.
Yep.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic which
stands one
A
nation
nation
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, liberty,
liberty,
and justice for all.
At this time, I'll ask the town clerk to take the roll, please.
Mr. Attanasio. Mr. Bono.
Here.
Ms. Brashali. Ms. Cairns. Mr. Condon.
Here.
Mr. Denbeck.
Here.
Ms. Driscoll.
Here.
Ms. Driscoll.
Here.
Mr. Elsey.
Here.
Mr. Fioravanti.
Here.
Ms. Furry Wagner.
Here.
Mr. Gauthier.
Here.
Mr. Goldstein.
Here.
Ms. Cole.
Here.
Mr. Lurch.
Here.
Ms. Mativier.
Here.
Mr. Morgan.
Here.
Mr. Muckle.
Here.
Mr. O'Leary.
Here.
Mr. Olinsu.
Here.
Miss Ritchie.
Here.
Mr. Rocchetti.
Here.
Ms. Stewart Gelinas.
Here.
Mr. Swanson.
Here.
Mr. Welch Collins.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going over the agenda we posted for the Tuesday night agenda. The first item on the agenda is the Ethics Commission.
What? Our moderator's got some technical difficulty, so hold on.
Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the first item on the agenda, Ethics Commission. Ethics Commission just has one category, personnel costs. For the upcoming budget year, $650. Questions, comments? I should remind everybody, when we started the meeting, there's a standing motion already been voted on last night. Every department budget will have a motion made by the majority leader, seconded by a minority leader, and recorded as such. So any questions on the Ethics Commission budget? David, you got the floor.
Oh. Do you want a roll call or you just want to ask for I don't see anybody with their hand up.
I just took mine down. Is anyone here from the Ethics Commission?
I do not see Mr. Zeldis here.
Okay.
No other questions? On the Ethics Commission budget, $650 a year on the personnel cost. We'll take it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? The ayes have it. Thank you. Next budget on the agenda tonight is Conservation of Health. Conservation of Health budget is a contract service for Ledge Light Health District for $139,197.
Mr. Moderator, could I jump in real quick?
Please, Mr. Brule has the floor.
Mr. Moderator, Steve Mansfield, our Director of Public Health, is in the meeting. And sometimes there's questions around this pandemic. I've been in many meetings with Steve, but for his budget preparation today, he's also here. If you have a quick question, I'm sure he can answer as well. But today he's here for the budget. Thank you.
Steve Mansfield is on this Zoom meeting tonight. Would anybody have any questions for Steve Mansfield for the upcoming budget? $139,197.
Question, Mr. Moderator.
Yes, Mr. Muckle.
Man, I believe that your budget is established by a per capita cost. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And can you tell us what the per capita cost is and has been for the last couple of years? Let's give it a little history.
Sure. It's been $7. I'm sorry. It sounds like there's a duck quacking on someone's. If we could mute, that would be great. Yeah, let me just give a brief overview. We continue to provide comprehensive public health services to the town of Waterford, and last December, my board of directors voted to approve my proposed per capita rate of $7.37. This will be the third year in a row that we presented a flat budget to our municipal members, and primarily due to the efficiencies gained through adding a number of municipalities to the district and our continued success obtaining grants and contracts through our state and regional partners. You may be aware the state contribution to local public health, it's $1.85 per head, but it's been cut 10% for the past 3 years in a row, so our budget does reflect that, although we haven't passed on those extra costs to our member municipalities. We work really hard I work hard with the board of directors to keep our per capita contributions as low as we can, while still providing comprehensive public health services. So on behalf of our board of directors and staff, we thank you for continuing to choose Ledge Light Health District for your public health services, and I'm happy to try and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you.
Paul Goldstein has his hand up.
Paul Goldstein, you have to get request on the floor. The floor is yours.
Yes. Hi, Steve. I just wanted to say thank you very much for the work that your organization is doing. For the costs, you go above and beyond, you and your staff. I actually got the pleasure of working with one of your nurses in a older location. And I just want to commend you and your staff on a job well done. And I hope that you continue to do it, and I know that you will. Thank you very much for all the work that you do.
Thank you very much. We never, ever get tired of hearing that, and I'll bring that back to my staff as well.
Any additional questions of Steve Mansfield, the director for Ledge Light Health District? No additional questions. We'll take it to a vote for $139,197. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Not passed unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Mansfield.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night. Night, Danielle.
Well, the department number. So that's what we're going to do, 10-133 public health.
The next item on the agenda is Public Health Nursing Services. The department number is 10133. And again, it's a contract services for one amount, $27,820. the representative from Public Health Nursing Services is available tonight to answer questions.
Evening.
Yes, Mary, do you want to say anything, make an open statement or anything?
I just want to say thank you to the RTM for the past support that the VNA has gotten over many, many years. This year, we do have small increase to our hourly fee. It's gone from $72 per hour to $73.50. That's the first raise we've had in about 4 years. But finally, our costs have caught up with us, and we need to make that just about a 2% increase. Other than that, the needs in the town have remained pretty much the same as they have each year. Our interest is in, at this time, trying to make sure that the people who, especially the seniors who are having to isolate at home, are managing okay. A number of people have asked us not to make visits just because they really don't want people coming in and out of their house at this time, but we're doing a great deal of support by phone for that reason. And that's really about all I have to say, except for one last personal note. This is the last time that I will be presenting to the RTM because I intend to retire at the end of this 2020 year. And after 39 and a half years, I think I'm going to let someone else have the fun.
Well, thank you, Mary. I know you've been presenting a budget for the RTM for many, many years, and please enjoy your retirement. Any questions? I think, yes, Mrs. Wagner, you want the floor? Ted Linson, Ted, you got your hand up. You got the floor.
Through you, Mr. Moderator. I just wanted to say, Mary, thank you very much. I worked with you for many years in various capacities, and the invaluable service that you provide to the VNA is just amazing for our region. I know my wife recently had to use your services, and your people are just wonderful to work with. So thank you very much for your many years of service. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. We have this past year made 16,000 visits here in Waterford that are largely paid for by Medicare and other insurances, in addition to what the town funds.
Somebody just texted me.
Any additional questions
I don't know.
on the Public Health Nursing Services budget request?
Okay, yeah.
Or Mary? Not, we'll take it to a vote. $27,820. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? Passes unanimously. Thank you, Mary. Enjoy yourself.
Hey, Dave, did you get my email?
I did, Greg, and I'm waiting. Thank you. You're all set now? It came back on? You're muted, Greg. Are you all set?
Yeah, I'm in now. Just wanted to make everybody aware.
All right, we had a couple members in District 2, everybody who lost power and they were without internet and phone, but they seem to be getting back online now. Thank you, Greg.
I was one of those.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, next item on the agenda is Department Agency 10120, Social Service Grants and Miscellaneous. The first section is under Services and has a subtotal of $65,980. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll go on to the next section of this budget, was contributions to outside agencies, as a total of $15,800. Any question? No questions. The department total for this coming year is $81,780. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. Next budget for review is the registrar of voters, broken down as follows. Department agency number is 10102. Personnel cost, the subtotal is $63,535. Questions? Bill Driscoll, I believe you asked for the floor?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I guess my question is broader than just the personnel costs, so I apologize. But I know that the registrars, in light of the pandemic, have been struggling with almost daily updates and changes about what's going to be required to run a primary and perhaps run the November election. I know there have been proposed changes. There's all sorts of possibilities. It might require personnel, retraining or new hires, signs, site location setups, all sorts of complications, and billions of absentee ballots, I think at last count. So I just wanted an update from Julie and her cohort to see how they were holding up, or if they had any latest news on us for us.
This is Julie, and
Hey, Julie.
I'll start. Yeah, we have weekly calls along with Dave with the Secretary of the State's office. And as of right now, the August 11th primary, which was switched from April 28th and then to June 2nd and now August 11th, is the presidential primary, but it is also being combined with the state congressional primaries. So they have combined the two. That will save us a little bit of money. It also gave us more time to prepare. The Secretary of the State's office is going to, they do have funding, COVID-19 funding, and they are working with every town on that. Part of it is they are sending out the absentee ballots, so that's going to save the town clerks from having to do that. They are also looking to help with cleaning and sanitizing all locations. And as of right now, we are planning on having all 4 of our polling locations open for the August 11th primary, but we do expect it to be a very large absentee election, and we are preparing for that. And we are, as far as poll workers, as of right now, we haven't been hiring our regulars. We haven't had anybody say that they don't want to work. Our moderators all went through a current moderator certification on March 3rd. And they are all, actually, I sent out an email today to confirm, and they are all also doing it. But in the event that poll workers can't make it, the Secretary of the State's office is working with all towns on that also. As far as hiring new poll workers, all the way down to if people don't show up, using the National Guard.
Thank you. And good luck.
Thank you. Patty, do you have anything to add?
No additional questions of Julie or Patty. We'll go on to the next section of the budget, which is services, for a total of $5,599.
She was speaking, but she was muted.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Patty, you got the floor. Yes. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. I was just going to reemphasize what Julie was saying about absentee ballots. They are expecting, I believe, 80% of people to be voting absentee ballots on this primary. So it's going to be a major change of how we do our counting. Dave's really going to be involved. We'll be working closely with Dave, but hopefully we'll be able to do it between his office and our office, get all the counting done. And the other thing they're doing is they're allowing us to start counting the ballots early. So that will be helpful as well. But it'll definitely be a different a look this time.
And also to add to that, as far as the November election, because that was brought up to you by Sue, they want to see how the August election goes, and we're doing one election at a time. So there has not been any setting up for the November election until after the August election.
Any additional questions from Julie or Patty on the personnel costs or services? No, we'll go on to
Greg
material.
has his hand up.
Greg Attanasio.
Greg, you have the floor.
Hi, I was just wondering if we have any provision to maybe have an outreach campaign, should it be needed, come the primary and furthermore into the election in November, and how might that affect your budget? Should we need an outreach in terms of educating people how they can absentee vote?
There's fairly good directions in the absentee ballot itself. Are you concerned that people aren't going to understand how to do an absentee ballot?
Yeah, I'm concerned that they're not going to know where to go, or maybe even some folks won't even understand it's an option and what the process is to obtain one.
Well, the Secretary of the State is mailing every single voter an absentee ballot application. So they will all get that in the mail, and then they can decide whether or not at that time they want to vote absentee or go into the polls themselves. And there'll be directions with it.
I apologize. Somehow I missed that.
That's okay.
Any additional questions from our registrars?
No hands.
Okay, I mentioned all the material and supplies is $5,344. In the voting machine, they just have $1.
He's muted. Dan Beck muted himself.
Who did?
Dan Beck, he's muted. Thomas. Okay, he's back.
Yep.
Okay, sorry. But the total budget is $74,279. All right. Any question on the total budget for the registrar voters? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Are there any abstain? The ayes have it. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is tax collector department 10106. Total budget of $206,156. Broken down as follows: personnel cost of $175,509. Questions? Is Alan here?
Yes,
Mr. Moderator.
No hands are raised. Alan?
I can just give a very brief overview of where we are at the moment. I know that there's probably concerns about the future, but right now through the month of April, there are two statistical analyses on collection. One is the collection based on the current grand list, which is what the Board of Finance uses in order to set the mill rate. And then you've got the collection rate based on what my department has been tasked to collect in monies to fulfill the budget for this year. Through April on this year's grand list, we are at 99.24 collection rate. The Board of Finance historically has prescribed a 99.1% collection rate in order to set the tax rate. So we're above that at this point with May and June to go. My department was tasked with collecting $91.5 million for this year's budget for fiscal year 20. And at this time, we are at just under 92 million. So we're over 100% collection rate as far as this year's budget. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions as we go along.
Miriam Wagner?
Mrs. Wagner, you want the floor? The floor is yours. She's muted.
Sorry. I just want to congratulate the tax collector. Those numbers are phenomenal. So good job. Keep it up. I know it's hard and it's probably going to get harder, but we really appreciate your efforts.
Thank you, Mrs. Wagner.
Any additional question on the personnel costs of the tax collector's budget? If not, we'll go on to services. On the services, it's $30,567. Any questions, Alan? No question on the services. We'll go on to material and supplies of $30 and office equipment of $50. Any questions? No question. The total budget of $206,156. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Are there any opposed? Are there any abstentions? If not, it's votes unanimous. The tax collector budget passes. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you. As most of you know, that the next year's tax collection has been extended through the beginning of October with no penalty. We have already gotten, well, the executive order covers that escrow taxes are exempt from the 90-day extension. So we're expecting the full amount of escrow taxes to be coming in the month of July. We've also been notified by Millstone that they will be paying their entire portion of their taxes in the month of July. Millstone has always paid 100% of their taxes in the month of July. They do not split their real estate. So between those two numbers, we should be funding approximately $40 million, give or take, of the taxes just in those two line items out of the $60 million that we collected last year. So cash flow should be good for July. So I'm not overly concerned about the 90-day extension for the rest of the population. And we will certainly continue to do our diligence to get as close. I'm hoping that we hit about 99.4 this year. I'd like to certainly hit that for FY21.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Nice job. Next item on the agenda is Youth Services Department 10119. The total requested budget of $244,743, broken down as follows. On the personnel cost, $197,743. I know the Youth Service Director, Danny Gorman, is here tonight if anybody has any questions. Ted Alinsky, you have the floor.
Point of information, Mr. Moderator. Is the name correct that we're using, Youth Services? I thought it was Youth and Family Services.
It's Youth and Family Services. It was formally changed last year.
Can we correct that in the budget to have the proper name then?
Yeah, we'll work on that, Ted. I guess when the time the budget was printed, the sheets probably around the first of the year, but we'll get that. We'll put that in the works to get changed.
All right, thank you.
Danny, I think you said, I got the impression you wanted to make an opening statement or make a little presentation. Feel free, the floor is yours.
No, I think we're good to go. I'll save time. Thank you.
Mrs. Wagner, the floor is yours.
Gonna ask you anyway, Danny, sorry. But I know your office has been very, very busy with COVID-19. Can you kind of give us a summary of what you're seeing through your service?
Yes. So in recent months, we have almost exclusively focused on the food locker. To date, we've served nearly 6,000 residents with food from the Interfaith Food Locker. And we've also had unprecedented increases in telehealth, the counseling, our counseling services, mental health.
Paul Goldstein, the floor is yours.
Yes, Danny. First, again, here, I've had the privilege of being able to help volunteer during some of the drives, your food drives during this uncertain time. And I know the gentleman sitting next to you, Mr. Bisetto, does a lot of work as well on the youth and family services behalf. I just want to commend you and your organization that you have a top-notch crew working behind you, and it has been a pleasure and a privilege to help your youth and family services out volunteering during this uncertain time. You do a lot for the community, and we all appreciate what you do for the town and your commitment to the town. So thank you very much for what you guys do in your office.
Thank you, and we appreciate those kind words. We have seen an unprecedented givingness from the community, from donors. They have certainly not let their neighbors stand alone, and we are incredibly grateful. Between the food drives, donations into the Interfaith Food Locker Fund, and donations of food, they have kept it, donors in particular have kept us going and allowed us to feed the thousands of people who have come to us.
No additional questions on the first. Sally Ritchie, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Danny, I just want to echo Paul's words and thank you. I know you, I wish I could be there to help with the food drive. I would really like to do that. If I ever get out of Florida, I hope so. But thank you very much. And could you just tell me right now, what do you need the most? Financial donations so that food can be purchased, or is that cumbersome for you to make the purchase? Just, you have a lot of people listening right now, so I thought I'd give you a chance for a plug.
Thank you. So thank you, Sally. I know you've been in touch and you've stayed in touch with us, and I am incredibly grateful for that. So we always do value food donations. You can come to the door. We're usually always in the building from 10 to 4. We greet you with a mask and gloves on, and we try and get everybody's names to get the thank you letters out. We also do value receiving donations in the form of monetary funds. We do use the funds to purchase in bulk, and our chairman has been incredible in finding the food products for us. We don't want to go to Aldi's or Stop and Shop or Walmart and wipe away their shelves. So we have to order in advance, and Mike has been incredible in finding us the products that we need. And if you visit the Food Locker, you will see that it fills up, and then we have a distribution like we will have this Friday, and it just goes back down to the bare shelves. And so whatever donors want to give us, we truly, truly value. Today, the Girl Scouts called us from Oswegatchie School, and because the money they raised through their Girl Scout cookie sales, they can't use to celebrate like they would normally do, they will come, they will donate us those proceeds so that we can put it towards the Food Locker to buy food products. So whatever way we, residents and children, actually, people of all ages give to us, we really, really value it, but it's those special stories that keep us going.
Thanks, Danny.
Additional question, Danny? We'll go on to the services section of the youth services budget, which totals $47,000 even. Any question? Total budget for youth services is coming in at $244,743. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Youth services budget passed unanimously. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Next budget on the agenda tonight is Board of Assessment Appeals 10105. Under personnel costs, $1,038. Any question? Under the services section of the budget, totals $550. Any questions? Total budget for Board of Assessment for Appeals for this upcoming year, $1,588. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Budget passes unanimously. Thank you. Huh? Okay, yeah. Next budget on the agenda, the Assessor's Office, 10104. Total budget of the coming year, $283,613, broken down as follows. On the personnel cost, $278,064. I understand the assessor page is here. If you have any questions on page, you want to make any opening comments?
Yes, I just wanted to give a quick update on the 2019 grand list. The grand list was filed timely this year, the end of January, for a total of $3.332 billion. Board of Assessment Appeals completed their duties last month. They reduced the total net taxable list by 0.048%, leaving us with a total of $3.331 billion, which is an overall increase from last year's net grand list of $30.4 million. And the overall distribution of the grand list has remained consistent with, 25% of the list consisting of personal property, 70% of the list is real estate, and the remaining 5% motor vehicles. That's all.
Thank you. Any questions on the personnel section cost of the budget? If not, we'll go on to services. The services section of budget is $4,899. Questions? Yeah. On the material and supplies, $650. Any questions? Any questions on the total budget for $283,613 for the assessor for the coming year? If not, we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any extensions? Budget passes. Thank you, Paige. Next time on the agenda is contingency, 10121. Contingency passed by the Board of Finance this coming year is $265,000 even. Questions? Seeing no hands up, we'll take it to a vote. $265,000 even. With contingency for the coming year. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. Next budget tonight is debt services, 10139, colon, $7,628,790. I think you all have the sheet in front of you that breaks down where all the bond payments are going to Nacho School, Greatness School, the high school, refunding of bonds, totaling $7,628,790. Any questions? We have our finance directors available tonight if anybody has any questions. Susan Driscoll, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just to clarify, because yes, I can totally interpret Oswegatchie principal, high school principal, but we have a group of the bond refundings. And I do remember when those were discussed with us, but I am sorry, I don't remember what the initial bonding was for. I mean, what projects do they reflect? Or were they all just lumped together? It's from 56035 down to 56040.
Kim here tonight? Kim's there, right? Fine.
Sue?
Yeah.
I don't have that number exactly in front of me, what projects were included in those refundings. My understanding is they just took all outstanding projects and refunded them for lower interest rates. But I can
it's a catch-all name. Okay, no, that's all right.
Any additional questions, Sue?
Nope, that was it.
Any additional questions from members of the RTM? If not, we'll take it to a vote. Debt service for the coming year, $7,628,790. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Motion unanimously passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is insurance. Department number 10112. Total for insurance for the coming year is $4,658,000 even. Questions? Huh? Joey Shortcheck, our Human Resource Director, who's handling his insurance, is available if anybody has any questions.
This stands 385. Going sideways.
Ed Lindsay, you want the floor? Yours.
No, sorry, made a mistake.
Bill Driscoll, you got the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I wish I had written my notes in larger scribble, but the liability auto property line, which was reduced, which is always good to see, but I was just wondering, is that because we've got lower rates now, or was there, you know, either a one-time event that spiked it last year and we're accommodating, or was it maybe because of the sale of 2 fire vehicles and we could drop the insurance?
So we signed on to, can you hear me, Sue? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure. So we did sign on in 2019 to a budget stabilization agreement. I noted that on, and these pages are not numbered, but if you look at the spreadsheet for liability, auto, and property, which breaks down all the different insurances. So we did get a couple savings, slight savings. Number one, from moving from a bond, a treasury bond, to a crime policy. It provided the same coverage. You'll see some reductions there. In addition, our actual expenditures, the budget for 2019-20, it came in a little lower than that. So it came in at 382,063, and because we have that budget stabilization program, they will lock us into the same rate less any exposure changes. So if you look at the, I don't know if you can find that page, it's towards the end of the backup. It's the actual for 19-20 projected was down to 382,063, and with that agreement, we carried over that same rate.
Okay, great. Good news. Nice work.
Dorothy, I think you want the floor next. The floor is yours.
Yes, my question was due to this pandemic, are we anticipating that our healthcare costs are going to possibly dramatically increase?
Well, that's an interesting question. We've been debating that back and forth, talking to the consultants as well. So I will share with you a couple things that were put in place. We are a self-insured plan, so we do not have to follow any of the mandatory guidelines that come out for fully insured carriers. We did decide to follow those mandates. So some of those mandates were in regards to the testing for coronavirus and also the telemed services. So they're waiving copays in association with that. On the flip side, this year, there are things that will not happen in this current year, which are, there's going to be less, I hate, this is a bad word to use, but more voluntary type of inpatient services. Those they're thinking are going to go down some. There has not been enough data to make an adjustment. And with the unknowns, they did not change what our expected claims would be for next year. So we are locked in on the maximum claims. And when I say that, we're self-insured, so they could go over claims, but we're insured for anything over 125% of claims. So we have that covered there. So the long and short of it is, still don't know too much yet because of the two factors possibly offsetting one another. increase costs to coronavirus, but decrease costs to more of those voluntary, like, yeah, I need shoulder surgery, but can't have it right now because we don't want people going into the hospitals, etc. But we're confident with the number that's budgeted. We have been working closely with our consultant on that.
Thank you.
Ed Lynch, the floor is yours.
Yeah, hi Joyce. A couple basic questions. You say we're self-insured. On the workman's comp, do we keep a comp rate annually? Do you track that?
So we're not self-insured for workers' comp, but we are in the KERMA risk pool. So they do give us, and I'm going to grab my binder behind me. They do give us a code. So if you're in the real market with workers' comp, so you own a business, you're going to have a code associated with workers' comp that's either less than 1 or over 1. If it's over 1, that means you're more risky than other individuals. Our risk code is actually pretty high. The risk code that the mod, which they've given to us, is 1.77. Now, with that being said, without boring you with too much detail, I can give you the sheet on it. Because we're in the KERMA workers' compensation risk pool, they apply that 1.77 factor, but then they back it all back out again. So we're back down to a 1.0 risk factor. They give you credits such as schedule rating credits, having coverages with other coverages with them. By the time you're done and you factor out all of those savings, our mod factor ends up being a 1.0.
Just another follow-up question. And going through this, I can't really tell what department has the highest rate of workman comp situations. But my follow-up question is, if there's a series of conditions that exist within a particular department or as commonplace, do we have some accident prevention program that we can instruct the departments and the staff on how to better take care of themselves to minimize the workman comp situation?
Yes, so, I will tell you that workers' comp has been an area that we focused on considerably. When you get to my budget, you'll see some information in that as well. It was an area when I first came in was very high. A lot of people out, a lot of injuries. So we do work closely with KERMA, and we have been putting programs together. Last year was our slips, trips, and falls. So we got everybody educated on slip, trips, and falls. Departments like police department and public works, we focused a lot on driver training. We were seeing accidents come up, etc. Sometimes they're inevitable. If you get hit by somebody else, what are you going to do? But KERMA comes in once a year, gives us the high areas. The areas are the usual areas. They're the most risk exposure areas: fire, police, believe it or not, teachers. So those are the areas that you're always looking at. But our biggest rider, I think I put in there, is like slips, trips, and falls and back injuries. What we have been doing during this pandemic is we did take the time to assign to different groups. So if you were an office worker, you got a certain training package. If you are out on the road, you'll have a different training package that comes straight from KERMA, and it's an online training with a testing module on it. So we've really put a push into that, and I do think we've reaped the benefits. We're starting to come down on comp, which is a good thing. So we have put a ton of effort into it, and we are working closely with KERMA.
Sounds great. Keep up the good job, Joyce.
Thank you.
Any additional questions from our HR director? And now we'll take it to a vote. Insurance budget for the coming year, $4,658,000 even. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? The ayes have it. Unanimous. Thank you. Next budget on the agenda is town clerk, 10109. Total budget, $267,309. Broken down as follows. On the personnel cost, $232,000. $562. Any questions? Dave, our town clerk, is here.
Hello, everyone. I'll just give a quick statement. Trying to run as lean as possible, as always. I do have some expenditures that are going to probably catch up to us with the election. Just to put it in perspective, we usually do about 1,000 absentee ballots for the presidential, which is by far and away our biggest total. This year for the primary, the town clerks are expecting that number to be about 2/3 of the election for the primary, which will be about 2,000. So we're going to double the absentee ballots in August that we've ever done in the past. And then the same thing in November. If we go by those same numbers, we're probably looking at, about 6,000 absentee ballots. How that's going to affect my postage, we're going to stay very lean going forward in the first half of the year until after the November elections. And is everybody here that can get help?
Yes, it's because the moderator is unmuted, I think.
I'm going to mute you, Tom. So we'll see how that all goes. But so the postage line, I do see a little bit of a problem moving forward, and I will touch back with the Board of Finance after the elections to tell them how I made out. But other than that, we're doing well. Huge thanks to my staff. They do a great job, and they really do. They do try to conserve as much as possible, and I feel like we're going to come under this year, and next year might be a different story. Thank you. Any questions? Jennifer Bushvalley.
Hey, hi Dave. Do you feel like you're going to have enough staffing and enough help should that burden, I mean, it will double just for the primary.
So I'm going to know a lot more in the next couple of weeks. Right now, the way they're looking to do this is we are going to log in the applications here in-house like we've always done. But the part with putting the packets together and the actual ballot, that might be going out through a mailing house. Whether they're going to kick back the postage to us or whether the state's going to pay for that through a grant they got from the feds, that's not really clear yet. So I am holding off on making any predictions. I've always tried not to have any extra staff. And if we can stay, if I can stay a couple extra hours and get it done, that's how we'll take care of it. If it becomes an excessive amount of extra workload, then we are going to have to look into either borrowing some staff from another department or hiring some part-time staff. Mike Rocchetti.
Thanks, Dave. I think you kind of answered that. Just explain how do the absentee ballots work again? The state is going to mail them out to everybody, and then they'll come back to you?
So in past years, we've always gotten calls from residents, or they've gone on the website, they've printed out an absentee ballot application, they've sent it to us. A little different now. They're going to mail out one to every voter in the state for the primary, and I'm assuming they're going to do that for the November election too. So what is that going to do? That's going to really entice people to vote by absentee. And in the past, they've always been though they have excuses and you can't they've kind of lumped everything in. If you feel like you're sick or at risk, then they're telling you that's a good enough excuse to put on there. And it's gonna, I think it's, we're gonna see how it all goes through the primary. And I think the state's trying to have an open mind, and after the primary, they'll reassess for the federal, for the presidential in November. But it's a little daunting, and I think they're gonna make it really easy to send in that application. And I think we're ready for it on our end.
Okay, so they're just sending out an application for the ballot.
Yes.
And that application will come to you?
That application, no. The application is going to go to the voter, to every voter in the state. And,
right,
then they'll have a choice of sending it to me.
Yep.
I will then log in the information when it comes back to me, approve them, and then the mailing house out of Massachusetts will send the actual ballot to the voter.
But you will physically have to take the application and do work on it.
I will physically approve the application, yes.
So it could be a lot more work.
Could be a lot more work, but Mike, if we're not mailing out the ballot and the packet and putting it all together, it might be a wash for us. I'm expecting more work no matter what. I'm hoping it's manageable.
Okay, thanks.
Dave Lurch.
Oh, yes, thank you, Dave. My comment really is insignificant really to you, but will speak largely to other departments as we get to them. But it regards overtime. 5180 is a line item. And I see you just have $100 as a overtime item. You mentioned that, you might have to stay a couple extra hours. You might use people from other departments, that sort of thing. I'm guessing now that you've submitted your budget with $100. Like you say, I presume $100 is just a placeholder because you really don't expect to spend that much money.
So Dave,
go ahead.
So Dave, I don't myself and my deputy, we don't get any overtime. We are salary. My assistant will occasionally get caught with a resident, and maybe they go till 4:10, 4:15, and there's another quarter hour there, and that's really the only time we use that overtime throughout the year. So out of the $100, I think I did check it not too long ago, and we were still under the 100 for this year, and I expect to stay under that 100, every year going forward. But I've gotten close before.
Oh, it's so minimal. It wasn't even worth bringing up, other than the fact that when I think overtime, I think compensation. I think of how people manage their overtime and that sort of thing. But Dave, let's just leave it at that for now. And thank you for your explanation.
Thanks, Dave.
Any additional questions? If not, on personnel, we'll go on to services. Services, $30,004. Any questions of Dave on services?
Susan Driscoll has her hand up.
Susan Driscoll, you got the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. It's actually a two-section question again, so I'm sorry, but I first realized under ordinances, which follows in the next series, you had mentioned, the entry, we have 1450, but you had mentioned how you budgeted for it, and you also mentioned that it's being paid for out of one of two revenue funds. And I'll surprise you, Dave, and I'm not going to debate that. But I am going to ask, because under service contracts and repairs, which is line 52040, again, we have an estimated cost and the note that it's being paid for out of one of two revenue funds, but you're only leaving $1 in the budget. So I'm trying to figure out why does one of those many revenue fund paid for things get a placeholder dollar, and why do we get an actual budget dollar in another one?
Okay, so you're asking why the dollar is there, essentially.
No, I know why the dollar is there. I'm used to seeing that. The ordinances, though, doesn't have a dollar as the others did that had, that had notes being paid for out of a revenue fund. So I wondered why there was 1450 there.
14, that's what I budgeted. Anything over and above the 1450, I will take out of the revenue funds to pay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So I didn't know if you had allocated your projected revenue funds for the various things that you use it to cover, and it started to run out of money when you got towards the end of the line.
Yeah. No, and the revenue funds have done, we've been using those for a few projects here, and but I have always helped to support the rest of the budget with those revenue funds every year.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional question? If not, we'll go on to material and supplies, $2,853, and office equipment of $1,890. Any questions of Dave? If no questions, total budget for the town clerk for next year, $267,309. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Budget passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Next budget on the agenda is representative town meeting 10117. Total cost is $19,453. Broken down under advertising, $6,500, postage, $100, news and conferences, $12,852. Somebody mentioned why there was an increase. I think the increase is due to the fact of advertising. Anytime we have an RTM meeting or anytime a committee has a public hearing for an ordinance, the town clerk has to put that ad by ordinance in the day paper, and the cost of that for posting in the day paper comes back to Dave to pay out this budget. Anybody have any questions?
Could I comment real quick?
Please comment, Dave. Yes.
I did tell the RTM back in, I believe, December that I would get back to them and let them know where we stood with the advertising budget as of right now. I checked it tonight. It's $1,408. It does not include an invoice in tonight's meeting. So roughly that puts us just under $1,000 in that fund. We're going to be looking at a, you're looking at me funny, Tom. Oh, okay. We're gonna be looking at just under 1,000. We've got a meeting in June, and then we've got a possible ordinance that could go through. That would be an expenditure. So we're gonna be really close at the 5,500 that you guys gave me last year, even with all the changes that have happened in the last few months.
Do we have any questions?
Nick, go off the air.
Nick, you got the floor.
Yes, I have a three-part question. On line item under services 52050, part one. I guess the first question is this entire line item our dues payment to CCM? Question two, if it is, what benefit are we receiving from our dues paid to CCM? And question three, which specific town departments benefit from our membership in dues paid to CCM?
I'm gonna put Town Attorney Nick Robavina in front of my screen. There you go.
Oh, well, whoever I am, Attorney Rob Ravina, Town Attorney. This is probably my chance to make a big plug for CCM. I realize it ends up at this point in your budget and this line item, but it couldn't be more essential right now during the pandemic. We've had an amazing resource of materials coming through CCM to interpret A through Z of the governor's orders and how we apply those to the present everyday situations we find in Waterford, from the Zoom meetings to public notices to FOI, right through to closures and all our procedures. So you can also wonder, what you get from an organization, but in this case, working with my office, I have to tell you, they've probably saved us countless number of legal hours in terms of being ready to help us interpret what's coming down from Hartford and looking over the materials that come in. So we're active members of CCM. I work with them as well as the Connecticut Association of Municipal Attorneys. And through those organizations, I think we get a real good product for our dollars.
Could you give a specific example just so we can get a better sense of what we're receiving?
Right. There's two ways it works. One is that my office, along with Rob Rule's office and many town departments, are able to email or dial into CCM and say, we're wrestling with this ordinance issue in Waterford. Where else is it? And they will often produce many different ordinances across the state that are spot on. But they also come up with these things called the Office of Legislative Research documents, which I would find very hard to research, that they often have a handle on, and they'll send those along, which are analyses of statutes that the state legislature has passed that I don't know the legislative history of. And that can become really important when we're trying to interpret a statute. And then this third point would be, during this time period right now, I'll go home tonight and I'll click on and I will see that they will have some analysis of the latest orders from the governor on how we're going to do these temporary orders for restaurants. You know, how are we going to put them in the parking lots? Will there be waivers of state statutes for emergency and zoning when we go to do that? So to be honest, this is some of the hardest working I've ever done in the last 2 months, but it's been really helpful to know that other towns and other municipalities through CCM are in the same spot, and they're very helpful.
So I guess part of their role and their job is, as you described, to interpret legislation passed by the state and how that's going to affect us. I know we had a recent change regarding Rec and Park and beach fees, and the removal of the sales tax, or the change in the sales tax. It seems that we as a town were not notified of that change. Was that a responsibility of CCM? I'm just wondering what happened in that situation, why we didn't get notified.
Yeah, Rob Rule's going to respond to that specific comment. I will say that we do touch base in my capacity with the CCM people who are up in Hartford, often helping us shape legislation. And even the initiatives that actually, one of them I think even started in Waterford, where I had a department chair, a utility chair, concerned about whether or not we were going to defer any tax or utility payments during this stressful time. And so we may well have initiated that, you know, through our CCM partners, and then it ended up in the governor's orders. So I really do appreciate the interaction we have with them. And I probably forgot about the fact that they have many folks that help us with legislation and notice that it's coming down. And then I'll turn it over to Rob. I have to admit, I wasn't aware of how that would apply to our beach parking.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Nick, that's a great question because I, as the town CEO, I can recommend to CCM reports that your committees may be interested in gathering information from. So when that meeting came up about beach fees, according to, you know, for Rec and Parks, there was a request made, could I, representing the town, because it's really myself and only my designee who can reach out to CCM for studies. I reached out, and I reached out to CCM for a comprehensive review of cost analysis of each beach park. I can share that. I have shared that. The numbers that we got were pretty much the numbers that everyone has, but I wanted to confirm beach fees. I wanted to confirm out of town resident rates, parking rates, the whole 9 yards. So your committees, or your committee in recreation and parks for the RTM, would have that information based on 13 different towns on the shoreline. So they're a really good resource. That's just a perfect example of, I do have that data. It does give me the layout from, you know, old line, what they charge, everything. And I shared that with Rec and Park Director, so he knows exactly what the numbers are. So when he presents, he has that information to your committee. I hope that helps. It's just one example. It was my first time doing it, but it was a really helpful tool that I could do to help an RTM subcommittee for real information. So I hope that helps explain a little bit of the value of the CCM membership, for me at least.
Thank you.
All set, Nick?
Yes.
Susan Driscoll.
All right, thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'll just continue a little bit with Nick's original premise, and I will repeat, I've worked with CCM in my previous life, and I know just how much help they can be to towns and to providing information. I think Nick's question and his concerns were based on recent incidences and recent comments that we had heard. The beach fees issue, we were told that we got it at the last minute because CCM had informed the town at the last minute, several months after the legislation had been passed, you know, and right before we had to make the decision. And, you know, it seemed out of character for CCM because I know they used to inundate me with stuff on a daily basis. So they were right on top of things. So I guess we didn't know if things weren't trickling down, if they were funneling everything through one office and it was just a question of relaying pertinent information, or if it was CCM was starting to fail us at that level. And the follow-up is, I believe, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, Tim Condon had pointed out a few months before that he no longer could access labor reports or study reports that we used to be able to do as committee chairs. So.
And if Joyce is on, if I could, Mr. Chairman, I don't think CCM is letting us down at all. I think it was me being new and me not understanding CCM's role for me during this pandemic, having that access to them directly. Now that I know what my role is and how to exercise my access to them, I requested on April 22nd, a comprehensive report and got it 7 days later. So I think it was just more, Susan, I think it was just more me on getting the information, requesting the information and not knowing what the process was, because they were really receptive to me, if that helps any.
Oh, okay, thank you. And I certainly didn't mean for you to like take the blame or anything. We were just concerned that, you know, their services might be slipping, and we know that we've relied on them on the past. And my actual question or comment was actually addressed to advertising. As Mr. Campo noted, we discussed this at the December meeting. There were some differences of opinion, and we all agreed he would give us an update when we came back here. So literally, as I was restacking my piles before the meeting, and I looked down and I remembered that, sorry. So I went and I did check. I checked the actuals in that expense line through April 22nd, and the number is 4,092, which is well below the 5,500 we had budgeted last year. Worst case scenario, what we have coming, as Mr. Campo pointed out, for the rest of the fiscal year is one meeting and a public hearing, which would impact the advertising costs. So, you know, we're all confident that they'll be covered by the 5,500. I know he initially had made $1,000 jump in his request for 2021. I personally thought it was a bit high, especially after everyone's told us the advertising costs aren't going to go up. So I looked at the backup that he gave us and saw that one of the worst case scenarios, one of the highest periods costs for that was the month we had a regular meeting, a special meeting, and my memory slips me because it was really busy, 1 or 2 public hearings all within 1 month, and got to see the cost for that to give me a ballpark. A lot is changing. I confirmed that advertising costs for the annual budget review, advertising costs for totally spaced on what else we do. Anyway, come out of the town clerk's budget. So thank him for that. I would move that we reduce our increase by half so that we would end up with a request of $6,000 for FY21. This is still providing us a buffer, providing for increased costs, providing for a really busy year next year. But I think we can work within that budget. And more importantly, we don't have a lot to manipulate within our budget, but by making that small reduction, we will go from a 5.4% increase to a 2.7% increase. And while it's a minimal amount, at least it would show that we are making the same effort we've been asking everybody else to make without putting us at great risk, except for Dave.
A second.
Second, from Baird.
Okay, here.
Muted. Campo muted.
Yeah. I'm good. There's no hands up.
Tom's muted.
Can't hear Tom.
Tom, you're muted. Tom, I'm going to unmute you, okay?
He's messing with you.
I'm trying to unmute you, Tom, but for some reason you're not unmuting.
This is Dave's dream come true.
Yeah, I had to bring my own computer. No, Tom. You won't unmute.
There it is.
Oh, all right, just leave it alone, Tom. There you go. You're good.
Final $500 reduction from advertising line item 52010. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Huh?
Opposed.
Who is opposed?
Tim, if you're on to.
I only had the one vote against. Is that correct?
Yes.
Good.
The bottom line for the total RTM budget, $18,953, I believe.
Yep.
Any questions? If not, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed?
No.
Rich Buckle, no.
Anybody else know? Anybody abstain? Motion passes. $18,953. Nothing else being on the agenda tonight?
I do have one statement to make.
Oh yeah, Dave Campo, the town clerk, got some last minute correspondence. He wants to make everybody's attention that came in late today.
I just really wanted to make the public aware that today I sent out two public comments to the RTM members and posted them on the website. One was in reference to the Board of Education cut last night, and that was from Colleen Leinberg. And the second one was from Maggie Sullivan for the same issue. And those are available to be viewed at www.waterfordct.org. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody tonight for their patience and attendance. And at this time, we'll recess the meeting till 6 o'clock tomorrow night. I hear a motion?
Moved.
Second. Don't need a motion.
We don't need a motion to recess.
All right, we'll recess at 7:19 till 6 o'clock tomorrow evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.